I'm François. I'm co-founder at Simplyk. Um, our mission is to help nonprofits maximize the resources, so human resources with volunteers, or financial resources with donation form and fundraising. And today I will talk about management and engagement of volunteers. Actually, I trying to move slides. Okay, it's coming. So I have a personal history with volunteering. So actually, I'm co-founder at Simplyk. I arrived in Montreal 5 years ago, and I was actually trying to find an organization to volunteers. I wanted to be involved in my community. And I realized it was very difficult for me to find the right organization. So I did make phone calls, I swear. But it was not easy, different. I was doing a master, so I have a tight schedule. Organization had their ways, and it was really difficult to find the right opportunity to volunteers. And that's why I co-founded Simplyk. So today, Simplyk is used by 3,000 organizations. And what I will discuss is volunteering. It's a huge subject because it's part of management and human being, and there's a ton you can say. This is my plan. So what's different from volunteers to a regular team is that your volunteers are not paid, as they have different motivations than usual employees. And that's why we'll use really this loop as mobilize and reward to address the subject. You will see a lot of data from Quebec study about volunteering. So let's start with mobilize, because in an ideal world, you don't want to recruit volunteers. You always have a strong team and you keep them. So what can your volunteers do right now? Because obviously you can't meet with them, you can't have them at your organization, but a lot of support that was done in person can be done over the phone. I'm a volunteer for YMCA tutoring teenagers, and they have set up a Zoom system where we can keep doing the tutoring, which works, I think, good. I think it's a great idea. For all the people in isolation, sometimes a phone call or those kind of interaction can have a really, really strong impact. Then something's really useful. I don't know if you feel like me, but I'm a bit overwhelmed by all the possible grants and subventions and help possible from the government. And it's coming up every day. And I think some volunteers might be a really great resources. And finally, at Simplyk, we saw that a lot in the last 2 weeks, is that volunteers are more than ever involved in your fundraisers. Organizing a fundraiser, a huge part of the work will be related to budget and cost, like finding the venue, finding catering, the food, etc. So it's not great for volunteers because it's not the best to have them involved in the budget of the organization. But know that most of the work for virtual fundraiser in more in ideation, finding the right tool, getting the information on the internet, they can do way more. And we see a really great virtual event happening with Zoom nowadays. So basically, those are three ideas, but as long as your volunteers still can see the link to your mission, they will still be there for you at home. And just to give some statistics of what the volunteers do, the most common action is personal support, so direct help, which would be today done on the phone. And then it's organizing events and fundraisers. So both are great ideas for volunteering. And finally, consulting and clerical work. For clerical work, you do need to be on a good cloud system. And I think if it's not the case, it's a great moment to getting started. Julia, we can give a lot of advice on cloud. So that's really a first introduction to the actions that your donor can do. If you have questions about that, you can always ask. But then what's really important for volunteers, even more than for a regular team, is to reward and say thank you a lot. So thank you is the basic. It's always good to have a reminder. but that's something that should be done as much as possible. And if we go a step further, the ideal would be to adapt the way you thank and reward your volunteers to their core motivation. So more than half of your volunteers, I'm just checking if I didn't receive any message of everything is going, you can hear me, yeah. So sorry about that. More than half your volunteers are there because they want to contribute to their community. They believe in your mission. So I think that's a great, for those, never forget to tell them what you're achieving thanks to them in terms of impact. If you're a food bank, how many meals were you able to deliver? If you're helping kids, how many, like what are the results? Really, really strong. So then some volunteers have different motivations. It can be skills and experience for their resume. And so maybe asking to be a reference is very strong. Some volunteers likes a lot being on the social media. So if you do some kind of Facebook post and you show a picture of all your volunteers, for some volunteers, they will love it. Some love perks like some few gifts and free meals, and or someone to socialize, so they will love having a drink or a Zoom 5 to 7. So I think that's a great way to go further and really reward depending on the person. And so then what's amazing is that if you reward and you have a strong connection with your volunteers, you can mobilize them again. And actually, statistics show that 66% volunteers to an organization donate to their organization. So here is a typical objection. So my volunteers, they already donate their time. I don't want to ask them for donations, for money. It makes sense. I understand this. But actually, they donate their time. Maybe their time is actually even more precious than their money. It depends. But they donate their time because they really believe in your mission. And so if they see that their money can have a great impact too, they will donate. Also, something that prevents donations is often the fact that people say, okay, I don't know exactly how my money will be used if I donate to the nonprofit. But if they are volunteering for you, they know exactly what you're going to do with their money. So it's perfect because they can see. And so the only advice I would have is do solicit your volunteers, but do it in a different way. Don't include them in the like newsletter you send to everybody or to your recurrent donors, but really communicate with them as what they are, volunteers. So introduce like, we know you're already giving us a lot of time and that's really amazing. Here is how you could help us even more. If we were to go even further, your volunteers are your champions. They often, if they are really feeling well and they see they have an impact with you, they can introduce you to other volunteers. So that's why you won't have to recruit anymore. Then they can become future employees, but sometimes they don't even know that you're recruiting. So maybe that's something to also communicate separately, and they often become board members. So quick to finish, you still have some time to recruit your volunteers. It happens, of course. And here are a few tips really quickly. So the first one is to adapt your recruitment channels to your target. So if you want to have young volunteers because you think it's better for your mission or the population you're helping, on Simplyk, we really have a strong community of teenagers and millennials. I think I can recommend also jebénévole.ca, ivolunteer.ca, a bit an older population. Then Facebook you have a ton of Facebook groups of volunteers, really easy to share your needs. And like you can test depending where you are. Sometimes it's LinkedIn for skills, sometimes it's Kijiji, arrondissement.com, Craigslist. You have a ton of ways. And like in an hour, you can share your volunteer opportunities everywhere. And then about that, 3 tips on your website if you're recruiting. So the first one is to make the first contact easy. So that was my introduction. It, like if I would recommend stepping in the shoes of a volunteer and think, okay, what do I need to do to become a volunteer for my organization? So map the process, and the easier, the better. So the best is probably a simple form. Get in touch. You write your name, your email, what you're interested in, and and you call them back or you email them back. But yeah, the easier, the more volunteers you will get. And then if that's possible, sometimes it's really tough, but as much as possible, I would recommend progressive engagement. I know it's tempting to say, I don't want to recruit every 3 months, so I will ask them to commit to a full year. And I totally understand, but from the volunteer point of view, if they don't even know you, it's a bit like a first date. You don't know the organization, you don't really know the work you're going to do, so it can be tough to commit to a full year. A great way is to think, okay, 3 months engagement, or come once and see, and then your volunteers will stay because you reward them and because you care about them. And so I committed for 3 months at YMCA, and I've been volunteering there for 3 years. So at least it worked for me, and I think that can be useful. And finally, all your organization really have strong and inspiring stories. But the reason you exist is often really strong. People need you, and you can never talk too much about your history and your mission, and that will help a lot to get to strong relationships with your volunteers. So that's it for Simplyk. If you want to learn more, so it's a platform for fundraising and volunteering. So a lot of recruitment right now are virtual fundraisers. What people like about Simplyk, I think it's that it's 100% free. So 100% of the donation goes to your organization.